first of all, if you guys would introduce yourselves.
Okay, I'm Robert Patterson, retired Command Sergeant Major in the United States Army. Spent 26 years and 9 days on active duty.
Awesome.
I'm Joe Marm, retired from the Army 30 years and 10 months, and living in North Carolina now.
Now, I know that I've seen you guys at Darlington. The first time that we met, you were at the Raceway. We were all at the Raceway Grill, just happened upon you there. When did you first get involved or interested in NASCAR?
I guess for me it's about 10, 12 years ago.
Okay. How did you become involved?
Well, I was raised in North Carolina and never cared anything about NASCAR.
Okay.
About 12 years ago, and a friend of mine named Dale Punch invited me to come to Charlotte to a race, and I got hooked.
All right, cool. Now, how about you?
I grew up in western Pennsylvania and used to go to the dirt tracks with my dad in western Pennsylvania, and so I always loved racing, and plus I used to race myself. I raced Formula V and Sports Car Club of America.
Wow.
And so when I came to North Carolina, I just got into NASCAR. Went to a few IndyCar races and just loved racing.
How often do you get a chance to attend races?
Normally, well, I have attended up to 7 races in 1 year.
Okay.
But normally it's 1 or 2 races a year now.
Now, how wide-ranging are the tracks that you visited?
Oh, let's see. I've been Daytona, Atlanta, Charlotte, Richmond, Bristol, Kentucky, Texas. I guess that's it.
Okay. All right. How about you?
Same with me. I've been to the races all up and down the East Coast, Midwest, California. Went to a couple of races out there, and just wherever. Dale Dale Punch is our go-to guy now. He says, "Hey, let's go to a race here or go to there." We've been to all of the Bruton Smith's tracks except New England, and we're going to that track this year.
He was telling me that you guys had a goal, so to speak, of visiting all of Bruton's tracks.
That's correct.
All the SMI tracks.
But he just bought 2 more. And I haven't been to Dover and haven't been to Martinsville yet.
All right.
But
Now,
he owns 8 tracks and plus now 10 tracks.
Now I'm going to ask you this question first because we'll get to you in just a second. We'll get to you in just a second. Now, do you have drivers that you follow in particular, or are you just a fan in general of the sport?
I'm a fan in general. I liked any cars that were sponsored by the military, either the Air Force or the Army. Like Stewart used to be, when he was driving, was sponsored by the Army, so I was a follower of his.
Okay, all right. All right. Bob?
But I liked them all.
Okay. Bob?
Go ahead.
When I'm not going to tell on you, but when you came in a Kyle Busch cap, I told you that I couldn't interview a Kyle Busch fan, and I'm not going to repeat what you said. All right.
That's good. It started with F.
And the second word started with, well, it was you, but anyway, that's okay. Now, honestly, seriously, how did you come to be a Kyle Busch fan?
Well, when I came to my first race, like I said, I was raised here in North Carolina, but I never cared anything about NASCAR. And I came to the first race and everything. But he said, "Okay, who's your favorite driver?" I looked around. "What are you talking about? Who's your favorite driver?" I said, "I don't have one." He says, "Everybody's got a favorite driver. Who's your favorite driver?" I said, "I don't have one." So he said, "You got to have a favorite driver. Who's your favorite driver?" I said, "Okay, who's the most hated son of a bitch on the track?" Somebody said, "Kyle Busch." I said, "That's my driver."
Okay, so basically you just picked him because you wanted to stir up a little trouble.
So that's it.
Okay, all right. Now, I see where this interview is going.
Joe's the calm guy.
Now, you grew up in Pennsylvania, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, what kind of upbringing did you have?
I didn't,
What kind of upbringing did you have?
My father was a state policeman, so I had to be careful what I did. I was a Boy Scout. I played Little League Baseball. Wasn't a very good player, but he got me involved in shooting on the rifle team, and I did that during high school with a club. I wasn't affiliated with the high school, and then I shot in college. And but we did all the sports with my dad. We would go to see the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the hockey team, and then we did some racing too. Like I mentioned, a couple of dirt tracks named Arden Downs and Heidelberg in the Pittsburgh area.
So that was before Vietnam.
Yes. Before
Really?
Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still in high school and college then.
Okay. Now, was that open wheel, or was that sprint type, or was that stock cars?
It was it was stock cars. Okay. Kind of jalopies.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Wow.
so that was a lot of fun.
Okay. Now, I know that you grew up around Fayetteville. Is that correct? All right. I heard a show that you did real recently, the Ready Room podcast.
Oh, okay.
And you kind of told some stories on that show. What kind of upbringing did you have?
Well, Daddy was a finished carpenter and a part-time sharecropper, so I spent quite a few days in the tobacco field plowing behind an old gray mule. So I know exactly what sight and smell looks like. And I am the proverbial one. She ticked me off on Sunday night, and I showed her butt Monday morning, dropped out of high school in 12th grade and joined the Army. Really showed her. But not much. I wasn't into sports or anything like that. I was just mischief maker.
Was you? Were you?
Oh yeah, I could stir some stuff up.
I can't imagine.
I used to like to go out with what we call the clay pits. Where all the guys took the girlfriends to do their making out, and I'd start on one side and run across the top of the cars. It's great unless you hit a convertible.
Now, what kind of kids were you? Were you rough and tumble, adventurous, more laid back, or?
I was kind of a quiet guy. I didn't. I got in a couple fights, not too many. My dad was a boxer, but wasn't interested in boxing, with gloves on, and just a quiet guy. I was an altar boy, and that was one of, I'm an average type of a guy, but that was my first claim to fame. I learned, back then you had to learn all the Latin, and I was the first in my 7th grade class to memorize the Latin and become an altar boy. So I did that. So I was pretty religious. I would go to church on Sundays and sometimes during the week too with my dad or my family. I went to a Catholic grade school and high school too, taught by religious nuns, the Order of Mercy.
Wow.
And so I was just kind of a quiet guy, particularly with my dad being a state policeman. I had to be. I couldn't drink, or I could, but I wasn't a drinker. I never really liked beer or wine, and I'm a big Coca-Cola and Pepsi fan, so this is a good race for me here today, that the Coca-Cola 600.
A state policeman and a boxer. Now, you mentioned the girlfriend that you quit school over and you joined the Army over. Now, did you kiss and make up after that, or
no.
Did you not?
No, I left Fayetteville. I'd been gone for about 5 months, and I was down in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I got a letter from her, says I'm 3 months pregnant. It's yours. Yeah, I was raised behind that damn old gray mule, but I can add and subtract. And I sent her a letter back and said, well, they figured out a way to send the little bastards by mail. I'll claim him.
Okay.
She never wrote me back, and I just don't understand.
Imagine that. Now, once you got into the military and you received the honors that you did, did you ever see her again?
No, I never saw her. I never saw her after I left Fayetteville.
How do you like me now? Now, was a career in the military something that you considered early on, or did that develop over time?
I was shooting on the rifle team, and my coach, who was in the ROTC, they're teaching the ROTC back then it was required, everybody had to take 2 years of ROTC. But I started out in pharmacy, then switched to business, and they kind of wavered that for me. But I did shoot in the rifle team for 3 years, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. And my coach said, "Marm, you're going to get drafted. Why don't you enlist? And if you like it, you can stay in. If you don't, you can get out." So 5 days after I graduated, I was taking a train down, first train ride down to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and got off the train. We got all of our gear. 3 days later, we were heading down to Fort Gordon, Georgia, or Fort Gordon, South Carolina.
No, Georgia. It's Georgia.
Fort Gordon,
Georgia.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
For basic and advanced individual training, and got off the bus, and I asked the sergeant where the bathroom was, and he says, "Marm, we don't have any bathrooms in the Army, they're latrines." So anyway, after then I went into OCS, and but I hated war, but I liked being with soldiers, so I stayed in for 30 years, 10 months enlisted and 30 years commissioned.
Wow.
And retired as a full colonel in '95.
Now, you said that you joined the Army 5 days after
Graduation from college.
from college. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay.
Not high school.
All right.
College. Sorry about that.
Now, you did go through Ranger training.
I did.
Was that a goal that you set out for yourself personally, or was that something where you were voluntold to do it?
Well, being an infantry officer, I felt that I went there. I was supposed to get airborne and Ranger, Ranger first and airborne, but we were in the Florida, the last phase. The Ranger School is a 3-phase. It's the best course in the Army. It was very intense. You're walking, you're patrolling, and you're walking a lot, and just learning a lot about the Army. And in the last phase, they called out, down in Florida, Eglin Air Force Base, they called out 50 names out of our class and said, "Your order's now being changed. You can make a call home to your family and tell them you aren't going where you're supposed to be going." So I called my mom and dad and told them I was supposed to go to Fort Jackson and push basic trainees at Fort Jackson, and that didn't happen. We went into Fort Benning and signed in. That unit, it was called the 11th Air Assault. We're training soldiers in helicopter operations. They were testing the helicopters against the 82nd, 101st Airborne divisions, and they proved to be very successful. They were able to outmaneuver those units, and so they were going to send them to Vietnam. And so when I got up there, I signed in, and a month later, I was heading to Vietnam with the first. They changed from the 11th Air Assault to the 1st Cavalry Division. They brought the colors back from Korea and renamed it the 1st Cavalry Division Air Mobile. And we went over 15,000 soldiers, and 400 helicopters went over on aircraft carriers and merchant marine ships. And it took us 30 days to get over there.
Now, you were there very, very early in the actual combat phase of the United States involvement over there. What was the experience like when you first arrived?
It was early. We left in August and got there in September of '65. Okay, we had brand new weapons. The M16 was a brand new weapon. We had. I was a rifle platoon leader in A Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry. This lineage goes back to George Armstrong Custer at the Little Bighorn. But the weapons were new, and we were new on the ground, and we went out and started looking for the enemy. And so we. Our unit, because we were a new composite unit, some of the men had been training with the, in the testing phase, and a lot of us were new. They needed lieutenants, and so all of the lieutenants in my company were brand new. Our company commander, Tony Nadal, had been to Vietnam with Special Forces earlier, and so he was our company commander and did a super job of leading us in combat. But so we were just looking for the bad guys, out patrolling, and
Well, on November 14th of that year, you found them.
yes, we did. We were outnumbered.
Yeah.
They had about 3,000 troops, and we had about 450 initially. But we had a lot of assets the enemy didn't have. We had, with our helicopters, we could pile on more troops and bring in, the artillery to provide close air support for us, and we had all the fast movers from the air, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Navy. Jets were providing, close air support for us. We even had a B-52 strike on during the latter part of it. Not too close to us, but that's an awesome sound to hear a B-52 bombing run come and drop their bombs.
Wow. I know you've been asked this question a million times, and I wish that there was a way that I could ask it differently or uniquely or whatever, but what do you remember about your actions that day?
Basically, we were trying to get to a platoon that had been cut off. They call it the lost platoon, but he wasn't lost. He was trying to get to the bad guys, and was surrounded. And so we made 2 attempts to get up to him that day on the 14th, which was a Sunday. But he was, his whole chain of command was killed or wounded, and an E5 named Ernie Savage took over the platoon and did a great job of staying there throughout that day and night. The first attempt, it was just his company, and my company was attached to his company to try to get up there and get to him, and we didn't make it. We were taking too many casualties, so we pulled back. And you think of Vietnam, you think of heavy jungles. This was not heavy jungle. It was elephant grass and trees and shrubs. You could see the enemy sometimes standing up and moving around. They could see us too, because we were standing up and moving. We weren't doing a lot of crawling like you sometimes would do in heavy jungle. But so we made a second attempt towards the latter part of the day, and everybody had their own little firefight. Right in front of my position, was a big solidified rock anthill with trees and shrubs around it, and I told one of my men to shoot a bazooka. It was called a light anti-tank weapon into it, and he tried to shoot it but didn't go off. These were new weapons. It was a one-shot disposable, bazooka. It's called a light anti-tank weapon. The acronym was LAW, L-A-W. So I took it from him and I rearmed it. I closed it up and I opened it back up and I put it on my shoulder, and it went off for us. I thought we silenced that position, so we started moving forward again, and we're still getting some fire and resistance from that one area to our front. So I told one of my sergeants to because of all the battle noise, I was using kind of sign language, was take your grenade up there and throw it over the top. And he thought I meant throw it from where we're at, and he did, and it deflected and landed in front of the bunker, didn't go off. So rather than waste any more time, because it was starting to get dark, and I said, hold your fire, don't shoot me up. I ran across about 30 meters of open terrain and got to the position and threw the grenade over the top, and it went off, and I went around to the left side, and there were some more guys that were trying to shoot me, and I was able to silence them with my M16. And when it was silenced, I said, come on guys, let's go, we got to get to that platoon. I was waving to them, and I got, and that's when somewhere further in the back, I was standing up then, and he shot me in the jaw, went in my left jaw and deflected downward and out underneath my right jaw, and very painful, and like most wounds would be. And I was I didn't have a medic, which was usually a medic is attached to each platoon, but they didn't have enough. So one of my squad leaders named Sergeant Tulliver, he was an E6 squad leader. A squad is 10 guys, and he came up to me. He was a medic in Korea, and he switched to infantry later on, and so he had 2 jobs, to take care of his squad and to take care of the wounded. So he came up to me and patched me up, and a couple of my troops, I was a walking wounded, carried me back to the command post, and I was evacuated by helicopter later that same day, and eventually, made it back to an Army hospital called, they opened it up for Vietnam. They try to put you close to home. The hospital was Valley Forge near Philadelphia, which is kind of the eastern part of Pennsylvania. I was in the western part, so my parents and family could come visit me during my stay there for 3 months while I recuperated from my mouth was wired shut. I was on a baby food diet because I couldn't, so that was good to eat my first meal after about 3 months.
Now, how long was your recuperation?
About 3 months.
Okay, all right. Yeah. At what point did you receive word that you were going to receive the Medal of Honor?
That's another interesting story. I had a guy that was a reporter for it was called Saga magazine. It was kind of a girly magazine, but it was a men's magazine. It had a couple of girlies in there. He said he asked me what I did, and I got a letter from my company commander that said he was putting me in for a high award, and I got an interim Silver Star down at a minor league baseball game in Florida with some other veterans that received awards there. I said, wow, that's the highest award. That's the third highest, a Silver Star. But anyway, this reporter asked me what I did, and so I told him, and he said he was putting it in the Saga magazine. I said, ooh, that may hurt my chances of getting the Medal of Honor. So I went down and talked to, I was a ranger instructor at the Mountain Ranger Camp when this was going on. So I went down to Fort Benning, and I asked the lawyers down there, I said, hey, and they said, see if you can get him not to publish it in that magazine. And that's what I did. I called him up and said, can you wait? And he said, everything you told me was in the field of public domain, which means everybody had access to it.
Yeah.
And so he went ahead and published it. And it wasn't that bad, but and it didn't affect my getting the medal. I got the medal 13 months after the battle. And I was pretty early, too, in the Vietnam War. I was like the 7th recipient out of 262 from Vietnam. 100 were living, and 162 were posthumous recipients from the Vietnam War. So I was pretty early, and it was a very nice ceremony. The Secretary of the Army named Stanley Reeser presented the medal to me, and he was a very nice and he was a Silver Star recipient from World War II. And it was an outside ceremony on a cold December day, 13 months after the battle, on the 19th of December. And I was the only one to get the medal that day, but the old guard was there, and I trooped the line, and I think more people could come outside to visit and to see and to attend the ceremony than could come to the White House.
Wow.
So that was, and President Johnson wanted to keep Vietnam a low profile. He didn't want a lot of publicity, so he had the Secretary of the Army give me mine, and another Marine named Barney Barnum, a few months later, got his medal from the Secretary of the Navy. And we're the only two Vietnam recipients, living recipients, that didn't get the medal from the President.
Wow. Now, Bob, in all seriousness, you went to Vietnam in December of '67, stayed through December of '68, and 1968 was pretty much the height of the war. It was very bad that year. It seemed like the country was coming apart at the seams with protests and everything. Were you aware of all that at the time, and what was your reaction to it?
You mean about the riots back here?
Yes, sir.
No, I wasn't aware of any of that.
Okay. All right. Now, when you actually got to Vietnam, as soon as you hit the tarmac, from what I understand, you were pretty much under fire.
They had a mortar attack at Benoit Air Base right as my C-141 landed. And so it was get off the plane, get on the buses so we can get you to the bunkers.
Wow.
Forget everything. So we had to go back after that and pick up all of our equipment that we'd left on the plane.
Now, as soon as you get there, you're under fire. Was there ever a point where you said, you know what, that girl back in high school, she ain't worth all that?
No, I never even thought about that. I quit thinking about that girl after I got my Article 15 because of her.
All right, well, of course, you got to tell that story.
Okay. I got an Article 15 in basic training from a full bird colonel.
Basic training.
In basic training. In fact, if I would to join the military today and do what I did when I joined, they'd throw me out as undesirable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got 3 of them in the first 3 years. But I had gotten a weekend pass, and I went home. I took basic training at Fort Bragg, which was home. So I got a weekend pass. I went home, borrowed Mama's car, and went to see her. And I was 2 hours late getting back from that weekend pass. So the Army, in except for them, was to charge me with 2 days AWOL. Sent me to see that full bird colonel.
Wow. May 6, 1968, and from what I understand, you don't remember.
I remember starting that morning, getting our operations order and moving out to the area where we were going to recon. And we started the recon, and then we got hit. That was about noon. And the next thing I knew, it was 5 o'clock that afternoon, and I was in a 500-pound bomb crater.
Wow.
No idea what happened in between them.
Now, do you think that was just because of pure adrenaline? Was it a defense mechanism?
I mean, loss of memory? Loss of memory is strict defensive.
Okay. All right.
I think, because I don't have a problem with PTSD or
Okay.
anything.
All right. Now, you were not wounded seriously enough to.
No.
Okay. So that wasn't part
Well,
of
I
it.
got 3 enemy marksmanship badges. That's what I call the Purple Heart. I got 3 of them, but never got past the platoon medic.
Okay. Wow. How much have you been able to piece together over the years? Because I know that you have been. I know that people have read your citation 1,000,000 times. I would assume that you both could probably recite it by heart, not out of any ego, but just because you've heard it so many times. Have you pieced anything together over the years?
Not really. I've never even tried to.
Really?
Well, the Army went to, a few years back, went to microfiche records instead of paper records. So we were able to request our official record from the Pentagon, and they would send it to us. I got it, so I got all the write-ups and everything on it. But I've looked at it, I've read it, but I haven't really tried to piece anything together.
Since you don't remember much, has there ever been a sense of, was that really me? Are you sure you got the right guy?
I don't think so, because I'm a poor old country boy, and the military told me I did something. Okay, I must have done it, or they wouldn't be telling me.
Yeah. Now, again, from what I read online, you actually received the Silver Star the next day.
The next day, General Bolsani flew in. They were called 11 of us over, and we all got awards. Mine was the Silver Star, and I'm looking at him saying, "What the hell are you giving me this for?"
Well, I would assume that you had the same reaction then when you were notified the next year that you would be receiving the Medal of Honor. Did you have any clue that it was coming?
No clue at all.
Really?
I was in the 82nd, 17th Cav, and I had a new platoon sergeant. He'd been there about 3-4 months, and he came up to me and said, "Sergeant Patterson, you got to go over to 18th Corps headquarters, protocol office, and see Major so-and-so." Okay. I go over there. I reported to him, and he looked at me and said, "Sergeant Patterson, you're going to Washington, D.C." And I looked at him and said, "You're out of your damn mind." I said, "I got any reason to go up there." He said, "Well, you will now." And that's how I found out.
You received the Medal of Honor from President Nixon at the White House, and they wouldn't let you wear your jump boots.
Yes, only because I was a young, dumb, stupid sergeant. I had there were 4 of us receiving our medals. All the 3 of them were officers, and I was a sergeant, enlisted. I was the only one that was airborne, and this silly lieutenant that I had as an escort officer told me could not wear my jump boots. I had to wear low quarters. I didn't even own a pair of low quarters. As soon as you became airborne qualified, those things went in the trash can.
Yeah.
Because you never wear them again. And he says they want everybody to look the exact same, so you got to wear low quarters. So they had to go find me a pair of low quarters. They also had to go find me a what they call that damn bus driver hat, Garrison hat.
Yeah, Garrison hat.
Yeah, looks like a bus driver wears them. Because I didn't have one of them either. We wore what we called overseas caps.
Can't say that
Can't
word.
say the other word. So I didn't have one of those either. They had to go find that for me. It got stupid.
Now, I've never been in the military myself, but I just have to ask the question: I know there's a chain of command, but how much does the Medal of Honor equalize things? Could you, as a Medal of Honor recipient, told the lieutenant, "I'm going to wear what I want to," or was that just not an option?
That's not really an option. Your military is uniform. You wear the uniform, period.
Okay.
You don't have the option to change it.
Okay. Well, that was your uniform, though, as the jump.
Yeah, but I was too stupid to realize it.
Okay. All right. Joe, you returned to Vietnam in 1969. Had you just not had enough?
Like I mentioned earlier, I love being with soldiers, but I hated war. But I wanted to stay in and serve, with my fellow soldiers. So, and all my contemporaries were going back for second and sometimes third tours. So I felt I should pull my share of the hardship tours. So I volunteered. They don't like recipients going back to the same theater that they got their medal in. So
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
some
Yeah.
paperwork to get back to I went back to the 1st Cavalry Division again as a captain and made it through the whole year. Was on staff and I had a rifle company and was on staff my final few months and made it through the whole year without getting wounded again. And
Wow.
saw some, lots of combat.
Okay.
It was pretty intense in '69 too.
Yes. Now, what dates were you there the second time?
All of '69.
All of 69. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my dad was in the 1st Cav, I believe 70, 71.
Okay.
So you would not have been there at the same time. And he was actually at Benoit. So,
In fact, we had our General Casey was killed. Our division commander was killed in early '70. I think it was '71.
and
Great commander too.
And you mentioned the fact that because you were a Medal of Honor recipient, that they didn't like you going back into the same theater.
Well, they didn't like me being in the woods, being in combat, but they let me do it.
Okay. All right.
No one. There's only one recipient in the Army that I know of that was. In fact, he was at my ceremony. He was a 2-star named Major General Keith Ware from World War II. He went back over and commanded the 1st Infantry Division and was in a helicopter, and it went down, and he was killed. And he's the only recipient. But he didn't get his medal from Vietnam, but he was a Medal of Honor recipient and who died in combat.
How much of a difference did the Medal of Honor make in how you were treated by family and friends who knew you before Vietnam?
Well, for me, it all depended on the unit. I went to units that nobody even, other than First Sergeant even knew I had the Medal of Honor for like 6 months.
Okay.
And then the only way they found out was we had an IG inspection, and my platoon was the Class A platoon for inspection, and here I am standing out there with it on, and that's how they found out. But I've served in units that it was really respected, and other units that would so much professional jealousy. you work. I had to work twice as hard as any other NCO in the unit, so that I wouldn't be said that I received something because I had the medal.
Mm-hmm.
You had to do your share. You just, back then, in the early days, there were a lot of Vietnam recipients. There were a lot of Medal of Honor recipients. The first one I met and got my heart beating fast was Eddie Rickenbacker, a World War I ace. He had shot down about 26 planes, German planes in World War I, and was a Medal of Honor recipient. And to meet him and to have him autograph his book and give it to me was just awesome. And that's the way it was. There were many World War I, and there were some prior to World War I that were still living.
No kidding. Wow.
That were Medal of Honor recipients.
Both of you eventually made a career out of the military. Did you ever consider doing anything else, and how much of a role did the Medal of Honor play into making that decision?
Mine was I had not received the medal, and when I made the decision to stay in, I was an E5. I had just gotten married, and I was coming up on re-enlistment, and I started thinking, okay, now what are you going to do if you leave the Army? What are you going to do? Go back to that damn tobacco field and that mule? So that was the only thing I had to look forward to, and so I just decided, you better keep your happy ass right where you at. So I stayed in the Army and made a career out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I never considered anything but the Army. Like I said, I loved being with soldiers, and I enjoyed, had lots of good tours all over stationed in Hawaii with the 25th Division in peacetime, and had staff jobs in the Pentagon and worked with the Army Reserves in Pennsylvania throughout my career, and had a great time, and just loved the service.
Now, Bob, you were a drill instructor
Yes.
after Vietnam. Did the Medal of Honor ever play into your training? In the sense that I've got a Medal of Honor, so I know what I'm talking about.
No.
Okay, all right.
Never.
Did any of your recruits find out?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few of them found out, but I never told war stories to them.
Okay, all right. Now you were talking earlier, Joe, about you actually did some racing before and after Vietnam. When and where and what divisions? You did some open wheel super.
Yes.
Super V, is it?
69 in Vietnam, I ordered a zinc Formula V, which was built in Knoxville, one of the better Formula Vs.
Okay.
And stubby pencil, and we didn't have internet or anything like that. So he wrote me back, and he said he needed $1,000 deposit. So I stubby pencil. I wrote my dad and told him to send him $1,000, and I would pay when I got home. And so after in early 70, I paid my dad back, because I was home from Vietnam. I went out to Knoxville to pick up my car, and he had it painted petty blue, and it was like a midget. It was and it's all Volkswagen components to keep the expenses down. The front end's Volkswagen. It has a tubular frame, a fiberglass body, open wheel, and a Volkswagen engine and transmission. We flip over the ring and pinion, so it's mid-engine rather than rear engine, okay, like a Volkswagen is. And we had Volkswagen rims, we had racing tires, and so I would race on weekends, and after work on Friday, I would drive to the track. We'd practice on Saturday, and then race on Sunday. Usually the races were about a half an hour in length, and each year I got better, and I was trying to go to the Olympics of road racing. Back then it was at Road Atlanta, and I made it one year. I was third in the Northeast in points. I won a few races, and I didn't do. I had problems at that track. I spun out and went into a wall, and I had to borrow one of my crew's cars, but we put my engine in it, and so I didn't want to mess up his car, so I didn't try real hard to win. I just wanted to finish, and I did. but I was way in the back. But it was a lot of fun. But as my family started to grow, I eventually had 4 children. I had to, it's taking too much time away from family and away from your job too to do that. Because you're doing it all yourself. I learned to rebuild engines and so it was a lot of fun. I didn't weld though. That's pretty tough.
Now, what did you enjoy about racing yourself? What did you enjoy about racing yourself?
I like the camaraderie of being with other guys and gals that were racing, and just having a good time.
How hard has it been over the years to separate being a Medal of Honor recipient from real life over the years? Because I would assume that when people meet you and they understand the significance of what you did once upon a time, that they kind of put you up on a pedestal.
We say we wear the medal for all the, there's so much bravery that goes on in combat, that we wear the medal for all the brave men and women that we served with. And it's just try to do the best you can. And, I don't put myself up on a pedal. I'm just a regular guy, and I'm just very lucky and honored to wear the medal for all the soldiers that we served with in combat.
I read a quote that you had, Bob, where you said that at times it's harder to wear the medal than it was to earn it.
Well, that was what Getty Herring. He was a World War II Navy guy. He was a recipient, and one of the first ones I met after I received my medal. And he took me to he was a tobacco farmer from North Carolina, and he took me off to the side and said, "Let me tell you something, young man." He says, "You're going to find it's much harder to wear that medal than it was to earn it." And he was right. You have to, it changes your life. It really does.
In what sense was it?
Well,
is it harder?
I figured out real quick, I can't go downtown to the bars with the buddies and get drunk and show my butt, because if I do, the headline in the newspaper is not going to be a bunch of GIs got drunk and showed their butts. Medal of Honor recipient Robert Patterson got drunk and showed his butt would be the headline. And so you learn that real quick.
So somebody's basically always watching.
Somebody is always watching, and they will always get the word out.
Wow.
And you don't do anything that will bring disgrace to the medal.
When someone receives the honor in more recent years for Afghanistan and Iraq, do past recipients reach out to them and kind of take them under their wing and share about what maybe they should expect? Like,
Oh, yeah.
like the gentleman told you, it's easier, it's harder to wear it than it is to earn it. Do you guys take an active interest in reaching out to the younger generation?
Yeah, we do. We do. Some you can get through to them, and others like brick walls. But yeah, we try to guide them.
What would you consider to be the most important piece of advice that you could give a more current Medal of Honor recipient?
I don't know. Don't let it go to your head. You still got to live your life.
Basically the same, don't do anything that you wouldn't want your fellow soldiers to do. And we meet once a year, and so we meet often with the newer guys at our conventions. This year we'll be out at Knoxville in September, but we have other functions too. We meet with them and try to assist them in any way we can. They're a great bunch of guys. We have one female recipient too from the Civil War, Mary Walker.
Right.
And there'll probably be more.
I thought you was going to tell me something I didn't know.
Not yet.
Now, you again, you raced open wheel quite a bit. Would you consider yourself more of an open wheel fan or a full-bodied stock car NASCAR type fan?
Growing up initially, I was an Indy open wheel fan. I went to my first Indy race at a movie theater. I was a young kid before they were even on TV, and but I like moving down here to North Carolina, I'm more of a NASCAR fan now. Although I like them both, there's an Indy race today, and we're going to watch that while we're out touring around before the stock car race today. So with Indy racing, or open wheel racing, you have to be a little bit more careful. It's easier to flip a car than it is with a closed body car.
Yeah.
And I hated racing in the rain too. That was very, very tough.
Well, evidently they didn't think too much of racing in the rain this morning in Monaco.
I saw that. That was pretty tough.
What's the difference between going to a race incognito without the medal and going to the race with that hanging around?
If you don't have this on, nobody knows. So you just somebody else out, another spectator in the bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you're with somebody who knows, who can't keep their mouth shut.
And there's so few recipients now. We're down to 64. I had a guy out last night. We were at the race. Says, "What's that around your neck?"
Yeah.
Really?
He didn't. He'd never seen one before, and he didn't know what it is.
Well, when we met the first time at the Raceway Grill in Darlington, you guys walked in, and you didn't have halos, you didn't have superhero capes on, but you did have that ribbon on, and I recognized it instantly. So,
Yeah.
do you have reactions like that often?
Oh, well, you mean of people that recognize it right away or don't
Yes, sir.
recognize it?
Yes, sir. That do recognize it.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Wow.
quite often.
And they're usually very impressed because they probably the first one they've seen maybe.
Yeah, I had started. I was at NCO Academy in Fort McClellan, Alabama, standing Class A inspection. Commandant of the NCO Academy was inspecting, Command Sergeant Major. He steps up in front of me and looks at me and says, "Sergeant, your silver star is dirty." The TAC leaned over and says, "Sergeant Major, that ain't a silver star."
Most people don't know there's 3 different types of medals of honor.
Yeah.
You have the Air Force medal that,
Mm-hmm.
it was the Army Air Corps from
Right.
World War I, World War II, and
Right.
in Korea. Then in Vietnam, they got their own medal, the Air Force medal, and the Navy medal, and then the Army medal. And they're all a little bit different. But we all wear the same blue ribbon around the basic medal. And there's one Coast Guard medal on the recipient too, and they're real proud of him from World War II.
Wow. Last question for both of you. How would you like to be remembered?
Bob Patterson. That's it.
Okay.
Good. That's a good answer. Just
Well, you don't want to be remembered as Bob Patterson.
I hope not.
I'll take Joe Marm. Just a good guy that tried to be a good person to his wife and family and country.
Awesome. Good deal. Anything else?
God bless you.
All right.
God bless America.